Hi, I'm Emily G, and today I'll be talking about my dyslexia, dyscalculia and dyspraxic story. I'm very nervous about posting this because it's a very personal story to me. I've been trying to film this now for about over a year, and now I feel like it's the right time to share it because my education chapter's closed, I've graduated, and I feel like now it's the right time for me to talk about it. So yeah, I will put in the box below what they mean, because every time I try to explain like the proper definitions behind these difficulties, I just talk absolute rubbish and it's not right, which is a bit odd because I have it. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I'm going to explain how they affect me. So dyslexia, when I was younger, I struggled a lot with processing the information to here, and it would just make my sentences like in a complete mess. So yeah, I used to struggle with that. Understanding situations as well, because sometimes my brain didn't really understand what people were saying like really quickly, so it would affect that. Dyscalculia is the mathematical dyslexia they call it, but that's my hardest one. Like I struggle with now. Like with my dyslexia, I've got things put in place for it, my dyspraxia, but just dyscalculia is always going to be a struggle for me. So I struggle doing equations, basic maths, from doing fractions to doing counting money, and I can tell the time, but for example, I could only figure out a 12-hour clock because it's just easier for me to figure it out. Stuff like that. And then dyspraxia is coordination. So for example, catching a ball. I can catch a ball, but just catching it might be a bit hard. Like day-to-day things like I don't know, like memory, like going, like if my mum asked me to go to the shop and she'd be like, okay, you need this and this, sometimes I would remember it all and then I would miss out like the one thing, but you know, you have lists. So yeah, I feel like I've rambled on for 2 minutes now talking about what they are, so I'm just going to jump into the main story. So I was diagnosed at the age of 5 with dyscalculia and dyslexia. And then later on, when I got retested again at the age of 10, I was diagnosed with my dyspraxia. The first school that I went to weren't the most accepting. I won't say the school because I don't want a lawsuit, but people who know me, you will know that school. So yeah, you know it, I'm not gonna say it. So I've told this story quite a lot, but I'm going to go into more detail about it. So in year 2, a teacher ripped my page out in front of the whole class and laughed at me and shouted at me because my writing was messy. This is because I was copying off the board, and for someone who's dyslexic, processing all that information and then writing it down, it takes a long time, and it will be messy if you've got a deadline. So that's kind of like scarred me for life. It's just a thing that I can remember as if it was like yesterday. One time I was told to do my top button in front of the whole school. Because of my dyspraxia, I would struggle doing it, so my mum and I would put something into place. I think maybe on a PE day, she'd be like, just don't do it completely up, because you have PE or something, and put your tie up so they can't really see it. But they saw it and they picked me out in front of the whole school. One day I came in with my pink tinted glasses because the words used to jump on the board and the paper. So at the time I was like, yeah, pink tinted glasses really did help. And I got laughed at, and I don't think I broke them, and I didn't wear them again. But behind the scenes though, I really only found out a couple of weeks, not a couple of weeks ago, but the older I've got, my parents have told me what's happened. But they used to say like they didn't treat me nicely, and they didn't call me dumb, but they were like, what we're gonna do with her? And they didn't have things in place to help someone who's got dyslexia, dyscalculia and dyspraxia. They gave me a one-to-one support teacher, but it was pointless. And I became quite not disrupted in class, but I didn't want to go to school. I hated school at that age. I had no idea what was going on. The teachers made it hell for me. So I started going in like half an hour later than anyone else, because I wouldn't kick, like, it would be a mess basically. I would be crying, and at the time my mum was like, you had to go to school or else we would get into trouble. So that's why she made me go. But it got to a point in year 3 where it got really bad, and the teachers were horrible to me and my family. So they were like, right, that's it, we're taking you out. And it was just things like, they weren't very supportive when everyone, you know, in year 3 and everyone goes swimming. I didn't go because it would take me too long to get changed, and I would go in to get extra support elsewhere because the school they weren't doing what, you know, I needed, and I was that little bit behind. So I moved to another school, and that school was amazing, absolutely amazing. I can praise it all day. They embraced my achievements, and that's when I fell in love with musical theatre. We would do choirs, and that's when I started finding my voice, and that's when I started doing singing lessons. And they were like, I don't know how to explain it, but they knew I had these difficulties, but they made sure that they really embraced my strengths, and that was really good. And I don't think if I went to that school, I wouldn't be sitting here today telling you this story. Even though that's like so soppy, that's the truth. Even though it was great, however, I was getting tested again. I didn't do my SATs because I was still that little bit behind, and my parents didn't want to put that pressure on me. So while the SATs were going on, I went on holiday to Egypt. I literally only figured this out a year ago. They told me about this because they was like, we don't want to put you through this. But however, when I came back, I was tested again, and that's when I got tested for my Dyscalculia, my Dyspraxia, and I was getting ready to go to secondary school where I had a full statement, and I was going to be put into a SBLD unit, which is specific learning difficulties, because what I have is not a disability, it's a specific learning difficulty. I might be saying that wrong because I can't say Pacific. It sounds like I'm saying about the ocean. So yeah, that school was great. My teachers, Mr. Shaw, the head teacher, and my support assistant, Mrs. Jones, absolutely amazing. They were so great. So secondary school, it was interesting. I wasn't put in main school, which is like where everyone else is, and I kind of like hated it. I really, really hated it because I wanted to be like everyone else, and I really played on being dumb. I felt so dumb. I was in a separate class. I felt I was getting tested. I was getting really angry with my brain. I was like, I want to be like everyone else. So when I was in a big group of like my friendship group, I would know what's going on, but there'd be situations where the conversation would be like really, really quick, and I'd be like, what's going on? And I would act really dumb, like so thick. And I did this for years, and my confidence went really down. And I was struggling as well with the confidence with teachers, because from my first school, I was totally not, me having a relationship with teachers was really hard. And that kind of was picked up in year 7 by my SBLD teacher, saying that she's very closed off. She doesn't want anything to do with us, because I was scared of teachers in a way, because in my first ever school, I was treated terribly. However, throughout the years, I built up a really good relationship. For example, like in science, I would have a one-to-one support teacher with me, because writing notes down, understanding what's being said. Science was horrible. I hated science because I had no idea what was going on. It was so, it's just science. It was just horrible. However, there was like, I wanted to be with my friends, but I had my one-to-one support teacher, and I was like, I want to be with everyone else, but she was like, you need to stay here because you need to understand what's going on. You don't want to, fail the class. And then it came to GCSEs, and that was hard. I was growing up. I knew what was going on with my brain. I hated it. My mum and my dad and my brother were my rock, because, for example, history, there's a lot of information you have to learn in history, and then there's only like 3 questions, but you have to write basically like a mini essay for each question. And I loved history. Like, history is I love learning about it. However, the GCSE just kind of like turned me against writing, like doing like exams. I would have to learn the material, like the revision stuff, a year before everyone else was, so my brain can take all the information in, which prevented me, not like I wasn't able to go out with my friends or do stuff, because I had to revise. I had to go in the library. I had loads of one-to-one support. I was pulled out of the main class because I had to do extra revision. I didn't get my history GCSE. I was 1 mark off a C, and I'm still annoyed about it today. And my mum and dad were like, oh, you know, you should try and get it again. I'm like, no, I'm not revising. But what really annoys me, right, is that the government need to understand there is dyslexic kids in your class that can't take in all that information and then do a 2-hour exam. You're putting so much pressure on these kids that have dyslexia, and not all kids are these A-star kids that can like remember information like that. Our brains are wired differently. That's a bit of a rant. So I came out with 4 GCSEs. I never ever thought I'd even get a degree, but that's longer into the story. I got 4 GCSEs. I got my English language, my English lit, my music and my drama. English lit and English language, English based. And people are like, oh, you're dyslexic. How did you do that? So I can read and write. Dyslexia is not just reading and writing. I'm getting really ranty. I don't mean to. I passed my English language the first time I did it. I did a year early than everyone else, because in my SPLD unit, it's like we need to just take any chance we can. So, you know, if you do pass, that's great. But if you don't pass, we can see where you went wrong. You know, that's why I love the SPLD, because they always supported you. And what I loved about the SPLD as well, in my English class, there was all these dyslexic people around my room, all the successful people who are dyslexic, and it just makes you feel great, because it makes you feel you're not dumb and you're gonna get somewhere in life. And you're just like everyone else, but your brain's just wired a little bit differently. So yeah, I got my English language. I never got my maths, because the older I got, I just hated it. I hate maths. I think I've done my maths GCSE like 2 times. I've done GCSE higher, GCSE foundation, and then I did functional, because they were like, we just try. I went to college, I did musical theatre, absolutely loved it, best thing ever. I was singing and dancing every day, and musical theatre was actually like, I want to do this as a job. I don't want to do anything educational. And yeah, I love musical theatre. So yeah, college was okay. I didn't really get much support in college, because I didn't want it. I was like, I've had one-to-one support for 5 years. I don't want any more. So I was like, I'm cool, I'm fine, I don't need any help. And they gave me someone who was trained with people who've got disabilities. I haven't got a disability. If it was a disability, my testing would have been funded. My speech therapy would have been funded. All this help that I've had would have been funded if mine was a disability. Took a year out, and that's when I started to get my first job. Having dyslexia and dyscalculia and dyspraxia in education is so different to the workplace, like so different. And they really don't teach you that at school. they don't give you that memo. So the first job I got was a jewellery shop thingy. I'm not gonna say the shop. And it was okay. The dyspraxia didn't really come in hand. It was horrible. I would have to wrap all the gifts up, and you can imagine someone who's dyspraxia wrapping things up. No, not good. I used to get so stressed, and I used to like sweat because I would look up and there's a line of people, because I'd be like, oh my god, how do I do this? Okay, I have to do it again, and I wouldn't be hitting the standards that they needed. You get where I'm coming from. So I got another job at Marks and Spencer's, which were absolutely amazing. They put me in the cafe, and someone who struggles lifting up the coffee machine and doing all that kind of thing with it, I can't do that. My brain and hands don't want to do that. So they were great. So I did everything else in the cafe except the food and coffee machine. They were great. Even on the first day I did drop a tray and broke lots of stuff, but that was the first day. I was like, get yourself up, you got this, do it. Then I went to uni and I did musical theatre, and that was good. However, I still had this mind frame, like, I'm not dyslexic, I'm fine, I can get on with work. No, I was wrong. First year was a terrible thing to do, not telling anyone I was dyslexic. And it really reflected on my grades. However, in second year I was like, right, fine, I got to do it. I'm not gonna lie, it took a long time. I had to get assessed again. Anyway, so yeah, it took a long time to get all the stuff in place. I've got, like, you know, the computer and the printer and stuff. People say, oh, it's free. You still have to pay for it. You still have to pay a small fee. Just heads up. Yeah. The support, I had a really good one-to-one support teacher, Ali. She was great. I used to look forward to seeing her every, Wednesday, I think? Yeah, Wednesday. Oh, love it. She would actually be like, you've got this. And then I had a one-to-one support teacher who would help me with my dissertation, and he was great. Matt was amazing. There'd be days where I would come in like, Matt, I don't know if I could, like, I don't know if this makes any sense. But, like, it makes sense. It's just really dyslexic. And the older I've got as well, I can really see my dyslexia. Like, I would write a sentence and then I'm like, look, it's perfect. And then someone would be like, you've missed out, like, but. All the little words that make a sentence. I would throw all my ideas down and they would say to me, your ideas are great, they're creative, I wouldn't have thought that. And because of my dyslexic brain, I visualise things very different to someone who hasn't got dyslexia, and that's taken me a long time to accept and embrace that. Yeah, uni was good. There's an ice cream man that keeps, I really want ice cream, but I just know I shouldn't have an ice cream. And then I graduated during a pandemic. I got a 2-1 in my musical theatre degree. If 5-year-old Emily could see me right now talking about me getting a 2-1 in a degree and wanting to be on the West End stage, she'd be like, Emily, don't, you're not going to be doing that. And I keep doing it for my younger self. As soppy as that is, I'm like, you have to keep doing it. It might take me a bit longer, and I might struggle counting money or, you know, understanding situations. Every day I learn something new about what I'm going through. Really wish there was a dyslexic main character in, like, a show or like a TV programme or a film, because if I had that when I was 10 years old and looking up to that character, it would make me feel so good. I hope my story can inspire people, because there's so many things today that dyslexia and dyspraxia and dyscalculia, there's things that aren't put in place still. So I went to a couple of years ago, I went for a trial shift somewhere and I couldn't do the coffee machine. and they turned around and said to me, well, you've got to learn, won't you? And I was like, well, I can't. It's like, well, too bad. And then they put me in the hot food section, and someone who's got dyspraxia, dealing with all that, there's no point in being there. It's so loud in your head. It's so loud. And I was like, I struggled so much. And then I was like, you know what, I'm not putting up with this. So I walked out. I think people need to understand that people's brains are wired differently, and we're not all the same. But yeah, if I can give any advice to any person who's struggling with any of these difficulties, number one, if you're still at school, don't take their answer as it is, because they're not always going to do what they're going to say. Don't be that kid in the classroom that has no idea what's going on, because I was that kid in my first school. I had no idea, and they told my parents, she'll be in the front of the class. Yep, she will be, don't worry, yeah, we'll write her notes down. Nothing happened. I was stuck in the back of the class. I had no idea what was going on. It's taken me so long to see that what I've got is a good thing, because without that, I don't think my brain would be who it is. It wouldn't make Emily G if I didn't have those difficulties. Even though it's hell, and I've put up with a lot of rubbish from teachers, people, friends, because of the way my brain is wired. This is my story. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really nervous about uploading this. I don't know if I will. I ranted a little bit. I went off the thing, but just don't let anyone call you dumb or stupid or disruptive, because these difficulties make you who you are. So yeah, thank you very much for watching.